We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Fear the old blood.
I think it goes without saying that no one was expecting this.
Dude!
What?
What the fuck is this? From software?
What the fuck is this? Angel's egg?
What is this?
This is Bloodborne!
Ew! He got the yitties!
From the ashes of a dying dream, From Software have birthed a new Victorian vampiric PvP/PvE game, the Duskbloods. And while the world remains stunned at the sheer audacity of this trailer, I alone have poured countless hours dissecting this offering, its many references, Easter eggs and obscure details, and much like many other From Software titles, coming to grips with the lore and its world building that lies hidden just beyond sight. And let's put it this way, this spiritual successor shares more with its predecessor than just looks alone.
I give you my blood. I give you my life.
Secluded and serene, we see this character sat lifeless, holding what looks like to be a bottle of alcohol. We can also see many more emptied bottles scattered around the room. But given the themes presented in this game, I believe these vials are likely to contain the impure Duskblood, for reasons I'll get into later in the video. Continuing on, we find this character sat beside a woman lying fragile and weak. On death's door, she offers him her blood and sets in motion the game's objective. This intro stood out to me immediately, as this female character happens to be a subtle reference and Easter egg to that of Arianna from Bloodborne. Recall that once you have found Arianna and brought her to the safety of Cathedral Ward, she in kindness will offer you her blood. But much like the lady here in Duskbloods, Arianna's blood is special, as her bloodline traces back to Queen Annalise and the nobles of Castle Cainhurst. Not only this, but the lady also shares similar stylings with Arianna also, with this very regal looking red and gold dress with a swooping neckline hinting towards the game's regal hierarchy, much like that of Arianna and the Cainhurst Vileblood nobles, who will play a very prominent role in this trailer and Duskblood's world building. Continuing on, we are introduced to an environmental scene of a lone altar, dilapidated yet beautiful, complemented by a large stained glass feature, displaying some important lore details, as we see a small flock led by a figure in the middle holding up a chalice, collecting the fallen blood that rains from a blood moon. Now, upon closer inspection, you'll see that this chosen figure is dressed in red and gold like regal attire, much like that of the woman who gifted her blood at the start of the trailer, signifying their importance to this world and religious order. Following this, we take our first glance at John Duskblood himself, one of over a dozen characters we can select throughout Duskbloods, named the Bloodsworn. A clear Victorian Gothic design, and what looks like to be our flagship character. Though one detail I have noticed throughout this trailer that many of you may have missed is the absence of silver in the Bloodsworn's designs. This is likely a deliberate design choice by From Software, as in modern folktale and folklore, the use of silver is of course harmful and deadly to vampires and werewolves. So in Duskbloods, we find characters wielding golden swords, gold guns, golden jewelry, and in some circumstances even golden body parts, a detail I thought was worth mentioning. Next, a character walks into frame with a long katana-like blade, slicked black hair, and all black leather attire. Interestingly, this character's design is a clear reference to the 2003 vampiric hit film series Underworld, as not only do the characters sport the same blackened hair and garments, but if you look closely, both share share a similar embroidered pattern around the neckline, and given this game's theme, this Easter egg befits this world's lore. Moving on, we are introduced to another what seems to be playable character, an elegant woman dressed in an Eastern dress, a design choice that strays from the path given from Software's tendency to lean heavily on a more Victorian aesthetic, though From have included a real-world reference, as this woman is wearing a traditional Vietnamese dress known as Yoya. We next find a lone Oni standing underneath what looks like to be the glow of the moonlight illuminating this dank cave. Interestingly, the statues beside this figure are all praying to the moon, praying for its blessing, cementing the importance of the moon's offerings to this religious order. Surrounded by flickering candlelight, we find this armoured character leaving this area. Now, interestingly, From have taken another real-world reference for this character's design, as this armoured man is an Easter egg and reference to the Old Gentleman of Raahe, the world's oldest surviving diving suit. Despite its harrowing look, the Old Gentleman of Raahe was a suit comprised of cow skin dating back to the 18th century, though many have still not determined the precise date it was fashioned. Not only this, but if we look closer, we can see a sharp fang-like blade bathed in blood that protrudes from their mouth, again lending credence to its vampiric nature. Another detail is this character's way of traversing during daylight hours, whilst most seem to only be noticeable at night or within underground caverns, although this character, through the use of its body armor, can negate the effects of the sun and traverse during all hours. One detail I've picked up on is this candlelit area this figure is walking away from, as these dimly lit areas can also be spotted in several places throughout this trailer. I believe that such areas will be this game's sites of grace, or bonfires, a place in where we'll be recalled or resurrected to. Moving on, we get our first look at Duskblood's mage-like character, a young boy who seems to be grasping an item in hand, an item I believe will play a pivotal role in Duskblood's progression, an item likely required to summon the moon. As we can see in a later clip, the boy is no longer carrying said object, potentially ruling out this item being a character weapon or talisman. As mentioned, above the boy a harrowing and colossal moon looms over, smiling unsettlingly, much like the game this encounter is referencing. As Miyazaki describes in a recent interview, his want to celebrate the collaboration between Nintendo and From Software, and his want to add things in Duskbloods that reference Nintendo's history and family-friendly appeal. The moon shown here is a clear Easter egg and reference to Zelda's N64 classic Majora's Mask, a game in where the moon slowly over 3 days crashes into Termina. Although not only does this reference share a haunting and eerie design, but is also a commentary on Duskblood's repeating game cycle, as this is a battle royale PvP PvE like title, and Majora's Mask's game design was an adventure based around repeating the same 3-day cycle. Following on, a golden tarnished statuesque looking figure stands arms wide stretched in the center of another vacant altar. Continuing the religious themes, this character's pose is a clear reference to that of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, not only by stance alone, but if you look closer, you can see that his hands have been punctured, again lending credence to the religious overtones of this blood moon religion in Duskbloods, a ritual likely to gain favor within the organization, or likely the oath they swore as blood-sworn beings. Behind the figure, we can also notice another stained window depicting a lone man praying, whilst blood falls from the sky and can be seen dripping from the man's mouth. Once again, the interesting thing here is, these holy men depicted receiving this blessed blood are all wearing the regal-looking red and gold attire, showing that in the eyes of this religious group, these were purebloods, those who seemed worthy of the moon's presence and its offerings. Again, much like that of the healing church within Bloodborne. The vampiric themes continue in our next clip, as we see the player character bite down on an NPC's neck, tearing back the flesh and unveiling a large ashened cloud, which then engulfs the player character. I believe this cloud is the Duskbloods' visualization of souls, our collective way of growing stronger, although if I may be more specific, I believe this animation actually relates to your character retrieving lost souls, again much like that of Bloodborne. Recall, if you have fallen to an enemy, that creature then carries around your lost blood echoes, granting you a chance to receive those lost blood echoes upon the defeat of said enemy. Another detail I couldn't help but notice is the colour of said blood cloud. It's large, discoloured, grey and ashen, not something you'd really associate with the vibrancy of blood. Not only this, but the NPC's complexion seems to mirror the absence of pure red blood running through its veins, likely only gifted from the moon. And with that in mind, I believe that this is the impure Duskblood that this game is named after. We also spot that the ashened blood cloud falls from the sky, again another nod to this world's lore and beliefs regarding that blood offerings are only graced and fallen from the moon. After this, we are introduced to a highly disturbing frog-like creature with multiple sets of teeth and limbs. And from what we can see in the official artwork, this creature also has a split tongue, each covered with sharp blood-like tendrils, likely designed to snap and trap the player. A From Software staple to have such a multi-layered mini-boss design, but it's also a subtle design Easter egg to Miyazaki's favourite franchise, Berserk, as this beast shares a harrowingly similar design with Wyald in his Apostle transformation. Within the nave of this harrowing church, we also find a returning Bloodsworn, summoning an entity to help fight what's ahead. A detail explained by Miyazaki himself, stating that each character can summon an entity to assist in combat, giving players a high degree of freedom when it comes to how they fight and win. We also know that this entity is a dual-wielding character shown in the official artwork shared by Nintendo. Although another detail that you may have missed is if you look closer at the surrounding area, you can see what looked like to be basins and cloth, almost like this was a place of healing, or most likely a place of experimentation, or worse, a religious sacrifice, as we seem to be approaching a priest-like figure ahead, another striking similarity to this game's predecessor, the Healing Church's obsession with the holy blood and their experiments on the populace. Shortly after, we are confronted with this monolithic, wolf-like warrior wielding a giant axe towering over us. Without pause, he speaks in a Welsh accent.
I pray that you are able, carrier of blood.
Referring to the pure blood offered to us by the maiden at the start of the trailer, signifying that the blood given to us is special, as we have seen the bearers of such blood being depicted in holy places, graced by the moon's offerings. I continue with the obvious. His accent and his design is a clear reference to Blaidd of Elden Ring, although instead of this warrior being a wolf man, if we look closer we can identify that this is a man wearing a werewolf-like armor, as we see his face poking out of the beast's mouth. Adding to the list of references this boss pulls in, looking closely, you can see that this boss's wolf armor has multiple red eyes, menacing in design, though a clear reference to Guts from Berserk in his Berserker armor, an Easter egg From Software continue to make over the years, and Duskbloods is no different. I believe this boss-like enemy shares a folly of most of Bloodborne's key players, the intoxicating allure of blood. As we know, our player was gifted that which is deemed pure and holy in the eyes of Duskbloods populace, forcing those in this order to hunt us down and ingest in our blessed blood. But it may seem that those who have engorged too much blood turn into feral-obsessed monstrosities, not unlike Father Gascoigne, Ludwig, and Lawrence, although it must be said that this isn't the only circumstance that links me to Bloodborne, as upon further inspection, we can see that this boss-like character is wearing a large golden medallion, a medallion that bears striking resemblance and a clear reference to Vicar Amelia, as within Bloodborne she can be seen desperately clutching a large golden medallion as she succumbs to the healing church's bloodlust and turns into a terrifying monstrosity. The similarities continue as this beast warrior's medallion, much like Vicar Amelia's, is likely a symbol of status within Duskblood's religious order. Lastly, the surrounding area within this fight seems to be engulfed in flame. While pondering why this is, I believe this is likely an intentional environmental design by From Software, much like Elden Ring Nightreign, where you are drawn towards an area in order to fight a big boss before progressing forward onto the next area. Barreling through these Victorian streets, we are introduced to a headless horse rider. Whether this is one of the dozen playable characters remains to be seen, but one thing is for certain. This character is undoubtedly a reference to Bloodborne, as this character can be seen wearing a near identical outfit to the hunter's garb, which, fun fact, was actually a design reference and Easter egg taken from the French film Brotherhood of the Wolf. Next, we witness a new transformation, or superhuman ability as Miyazaki puts it, biting down on what looks like to be our straw-hatted woman from before, likely showing some PvP action. Following this, we are confronted by a large man singing through the streets, a strange sight considering the game's subject, but take a closer look and you'll see that this man was likely once a prisoner, as he appears before us with broken cuffs and a hangman's noose around his neck. My theory is that this man was likely imprisoned for hailing in the new dawn by those who worship the moon and its offerings, and we see him here singing and bringing about a new dawn, a new cycle. Following this, we see the woman from earlier but in a newer, more modern steampunk environment. An interesting detail I picked up on is her weapon of choice, a circular blade that seems to resemble that of a lunar moon, again in keeping with the game's obsession with the moon. More details can be found during the gravitational magic clip, as the enemies shown here bear striking resemblance to Bloodborne's clergyman, which would actually make sense considering we seem to be in front of a cathedral when this happens. Interestingly, both happen to be a subtle Easter egg to Mozgus from Berserk. Finally, we are introduced to this blinded figure here, a mysterious character dripping with hidden details and Easter eggs. Starting with the gesture this man is performing is actually twofold. The first being a reference to Bloodborne's gesture Make Contact, a pose believed to help one commune with the Ascended and Great Ones, again in keeping with the game's religious themes. Although the likely reference being made here is actually based more in reality, as this is the same pose presented by the Nagasaki Peace statue, constructed after the Nagasaki nuclear bombing in 1945, a powerful reminder that still stands with one arm outstretched, symbolizing peace for future generations, and the other arm pointing towards the sky as a cautious reminder of the dangers that can fall from the sky. This also befits the lore of Duskbloods, as this religious order believed that the divine blood offerings fall from the sky.
Tears will flow for one, and one alone.
From what Miyazaki divulged in his interview, I believe this character is talking about the first blood mechanic, where whomever transcends the night will receive this pure blood offering, aka first blood, which we can surmise through the lore and the world building draws from the blood moon. His helmet also sparks interest from a lore perspective, as he is blinded, likely to serve this religious order, because not only is he blinded, if we take a closer look at a previous scene, we can also find two statues inside of a church who have also been blinded, actually similar to those found in Bloodborne within Cathedral Ward. Not only this, but the voice line from before tells us to
close your eyes and contemplate now the moon, as befits the soon to depart.
Reminding me of Bloodborne's insight and those who have blinded themselves due to their obsession with having eyes on the inside, to reveal the eldritch truth and to ascend one's mind to that of a great one. We can also decipher that the embroidery pattern around his neckline is the same as the character dressed in all black leather, likely a symbol adorned by this religious group to show devotion or rank. Finally, we end our trailer with a glimpse of this rat bird creature, which, as told by Miyazaki, is an Easter egg and reference to Nintendo, to their many cute characters and family-friendly philosophy. He goes on to explain that this creature will act as our fire maiden here in Duskbloods. Existing only in the hub area, this creature will help us level up, manage resources, and much more. He also goes on to explain that this creature is also voiced by an elderly gentleman. Now, if you'd allow me a moment, I'd like to gather my thoughts on Duskbloods, given what I can surmise through the trailer. This game is clearly not Bloodborne 2. The gameplay will be something completely new for Nintendo and From Software, and who knows what this partnership will bring. But one thing is very clear to me, and that is Miyazaki's sheer love for Bloodborne, as he has gone on record multiple times stating that Bloodborne was, if not one of his favourite projects he has ever had the honour of creating. But from a creative side, it must be heartbreaking to know that his license isn't even his to share or build upon for the rest of the gaming world. And with that being said, while yes, Duskbloods is not Bloodborne, it brings me so much joy to see so much of Bloodborne's DNA, themes, character designs continue within his creative work. But what do you guys think? Was there anything I missed out? I'd love to discuss more Duskbloods. Are you worried about this being another console exclusive? Comment below. And if you liked this video, I appreciate that. This channel is mine and mine alone. I wouldn't consider subscribing. Who knows if I'll ever make anything like this again.